All right, I apologize to everyone and to Renee. I think we had technical difficulty. Don't know which end it was on. Doesn't matter. I wish we were in person talking and streaming it live. But let's get back to it. So I was in the middle of asking you when we were both having technical difficulty and you couldn't hear me about in 2012 you became district leader or state committee woman of the 57th Assembly District. Tell us a little bit about again I was saying. I ran for that unsuccessfully in 2010. My dad held the position for 30 years in the 50th Assembly District. What's it like from your perspective to be a district leader now that you're running for city council? I want to differentiate the two for folks and show that you can step into this, larger role in as far as putting your hard work to the front lines for folks.
Well, let me tell you something. I loved being district leader. I mean, I absolutely love being a state committee member because that was my opportunity to be able to put all of my experience together politically and how to channel that into government and how to bring the issues of the community to the local politicians. Having access to the most powerful people in the city of New York was a wonderful thing. And it's still wonderful because I still have my, those are my colleagues. Once you're elected, they're always your colleagues. And so I love the fact that I was able to help people by way of that title and say, hey, I could call up the borough president on my cell phone. Hey, so-and-so, there's an issue going on. These people over here need your help, and they need you to call them back and to respond to them. And he would get right on it. Hey, Councilwoman so-and-so, I can do the same thing. The district leader's role is really something that if you really are driven and if you really love your community, you can make things happen. Sometimes people say, oh, but you don't get paid anything. It doesn't matter because you have access, you have power, and the power that you have to use it. And not everyone understands that. Some people have that role and they're just there, but you have to make it work for you. And you have to understand that as a district leader, you can make change in the city of New York and in your borough and in your area just because you're that. And you could get help, and not only just help for you, but help for others, help for the small businesses, help for everyone who needs it. And some people don't, honestly take that and do anything with it. And it's a shame when you are that and you don't really come through for the people, because then why are you in that role?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I've said a lot of times there are like the people who run for office and they get into office and then all at midterm, a 2-year term, 4-year term, they go take some appointment job, in a state job, or they go to a corporate world. To me, if you're running for office and you're committed to doing something, do the best you can to help those people because why they vote for you. And also don't abandon that position if you've run and the good people in the district have elected you. So, let's talk about, this is called a brick wall because it's about challenges, getting through the other side. As district leader, what was your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
Well, as district leader, one of the things that I'm most proud of, and I love to talk about it, is how I was very instrumental and I took the lead role on selecting the first Black Supreme Court judge for Staten Island. And it was a challenge because I, at the time, was a new district leader, and I had to rally my colleagues within the party to help push this man into that seat. And it took a lot of negotiating and saying, listen, and a lot of understanding, because in this day and time, we still have the first Black this, the first Black that. And we should not have that on any level for any people who are living here in New York. At this point, you would think that we'd be so diverse that it wouldn't be that, but it is. And that role was so important for him to be there. And I was glad that the district leaders believed that I would do what I said that I would do, which I did. And then after we put him into the Supreme Court in Staten Island, I also took the lead in helping a judge named Terry Sakato, get the backfill of the seat of the person that was in there before. And so, who was the first white woman in that district to have that role as a judge. We have to diversify this city as much as possible. We cannot have segregation and people being separated by race and by class and all of these things. This is not what New York is about. We are a melting pot, so we have to mean that on every level.
Amen. We got to come together. So now, I mean, now you're running 35th Council District in New York, again, going from an unpaid, position that represents an assembly district to a paid, city legislation, really like front of the line, type deal as a city councilwoman. What does that, that leap mean for you, and what does the role of a city council person mean to you?
Listen, we legislate on all levels of city government, okay? And one of the things that I am excited about, and I have to put this on my website as soon as possible, but one of the things that I must do is form a coalition of Black policymakers for the 35th district. This is the only way that Black voices will be heard. We talk about the Black agenda, and honestly, unfortunately, we have not seen, Black agendas really put forth the way it should be put forth. We need protective legislation for Black people. As we know, and as we've seen, and as we've heard, there have been people who have been shot and killed, unarmed Black men and women, and who have been killed by the police, and no repercussions. This is not how we should live. I should not be killed by a police officer and then my family gets no justice from it, and we just go into court for 3 and 4 and 5 years and then nothing happens. There has to be some accountability. So Black people, there has to be some sort of way that we can be protected by the law. And there is, because all we have to do is write the law, right? And that's what legislators do. They write laws. So anytime that we see something happening in the state and the city of New York, and we're not responding by legislation, something is wrong. Somebody is dropping the ball, because it shouldn't take 5 years for legislation to come out about Eric Garner. That's a tragedy. The minute something happens, you jump on it. And actually, that's even being reactive, right? We should already have a long vision. When you have long vision, you put things in place before they happen so that they won't happen. And that's what I don't see in City Hall. So a coalition of Black policymakers is so important, because that allows for Black voices to be heard in government by way of citizens legislation. So I will be fighting and leading the charge on that for Black people all over the city of New York.
It's a good idea. And I mean, so your thought would be to gather information from, Black leaders throughout the city, and then, decipher what they're saying, and then, propose legislation based off those conversations or hearings.
Black people from the community.
Yeah.
Warren, Black people from the community. It doesn't have to be the Black leaders who we always see, or the ones that are catapulted up front, because there are leaders in our community that are unsung. There are leaders right on the local block association that have been there for 40 and 50 years, that have seen changes and things that really affect where they live, and their voices matter. So we have to include people who are just on the ground, entrenched folks who live in the 35th district to come aboard, and we begin this from our district.
Well, I mean, that your district and many others in Brooklyn, and throughout the city of New York, and obviously, the country, the world, have been dealt a tough blow by COVID. How much of a campaign issue, or like how, I know like in the national election, clearly it's a huge thing. It's on everyone's mind. It's changed our lives. We're living in a new normal. But as far as the local city council race in the city, that was the first or second, third epicenter, but the first certainly in America. How much of an issue has COVID and the coronavirus, become in your race and in your district?
Well, just like everyone else, you know what I mean? I personally have experienced so much death around me. It's not even funny. It's amazing how I can even get up in the morning thinking about the loads of people that I know personally that have succumbed to COVID. I cannot believe what I've gone through. But I think as a mechanism to be able to keep pushing, prayer is necessary in my life. My faith is necessary in my life. And that's how I gain my strength. And also, sometimes in politics and even in a lot of professional fields, people become like numb to certain things sometimes. And I find that I have to become numb so that I can keep going. And because if I don't become numb, I can't keep going. And, it'll lead to depression and all of these things if I sit down and think about it too long. But in my race, one of the things that I had done was, giving out, distributing food and masks and things like that. I took a stroll down to Fort Greene Park with masks and I was just giving them out to the people who usually utilize the north side of the park, which are the people in public housing. And they come across the street a lot and they just, hang out and have barbecues there. And I began to, make sure that they were safe. And one thing that I found out, Warren, is that when I got there with the mask, everyone had masks. So I said, good. And that's what I like to see. And so I just gave out extra masks just in case for the next day or two. But that made my heart glad because many have underlying issues and health conditions that we just want to safeguard ourselves.
Yeah, it's awesome that you did that and you handed stuff out, and it is good and refreshing and nice to see when people are self-compliant, which is great. Aside from COVID, and aside from your your Black Leadership Caucus Council, whatever you're going to call it, what are some of the other ideas or top agenda points for you as far as you get into City Council day one? What do you want to be doing?
Well, one of the things that's also very important to us is the fact that I have a civics course for children, and I put some literature up with me.
Oh, nice.
And it's called the hold on, let me show you this. Hold on. Let me make sure I can see myself on this. Okay, here it is. This is called the Fundamentals of Citizenship. And this is a civics course that I created for the middle school age child. I take this course and I go into the public school system and the schools in our district, and I teach them about civic education, and I teach them about how government works. I teach them about advocacy and activism. I teach these children about lobbying, and I take them up to Albany to lobby their legislators. I teach the children in the public school system about identifying and targeting elected officials, current events, what's going on in your neighborhood. I teach the children about how government affects them. What are the issues of the day? Who are the players involved? And then we go on call campaigns to our elected officials' offices. We go on email letter writing campaigns, and we talk about issues that they are having within their school. And so I'm very proud of this course. I have been in so many schools in this district. It's unreal. So I'm proud of the fact that civic education is something that I'm known for. I am an educator, and I took this same course, and I became the newest instructor at Medgar Evers College. As soon as this COVID is over, we can, jump on board real quick and start this as well. But I'm happy to be a part of that community over there in Crown Heights to be able to do this. And so civic education has to be put in our schools across the board. I took the initiative to create this course for my district. However, it needs to go further, and we need support with that because, we don't want adults to, in our generation, to not understand what's happening. So we have to begin as their children to create the next level and the next generation of knowledgeable of people who understand how and what's happening around them, and not to be blindsided by things that are happening to them and then they don't understand why. I want these young children to understand as a future as the most productive future generation, hopefully, that I had to help to push and to create, that they can make the difference after we're long gone, and then that can play out, generation by generation, just on me teaching this generation, right, about civic education and just leading to the next. It is so important. And we must push for civic education.
And what better way, I mean, what better way to do it than, someone who's already been a district leader, who held elected office, who's run for office, who's running for office, to come up with that curriculum and to teach the children how to, it's one thing. I always say it's one thing to learn things theoretically in a textbook, and it's very different to put it into practice and to do things. So to be able to, do both, through your.
And Warren, one thing, I teach this course myself.
Yeah.
And that's the things, I'm a little child friendly, but I teach it. And I love what you said, because that's the truth. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to live it. Because when I talk about it, I bring it to life, because these are just my experiences.
Not many people, except for the 30 in my class and my old man, knew this, but we used to have, I was in an AP political science class in high school, and it really shaped me getting involved, because I would have my dad, through, again, as a district leader, you have many connections. We would have folks brought in, like if we're pretending to, like we did a mock election and like, I'm governor this and you're this, like we would, the actual candidates would sometimes show up, or we'd bring the class to attend an event. So, to see, again, to bring, the two together, the, theoretical and practical or reality is always cool. So I know we had a technical difficulty, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. But I do have one more question, because it's super important. I know it's tough. I know you recently, tweeted about, frustration with the city schools, and you're talking about schools. You're an educator, you're a teacher. I know you're, very much plugged in with your district community, the parents, the students. What are you hearing on the street? Like, forget, the big debate. Like, what are the people, we the people, like, what are folks telling you on the street? And do they want schools open? Is it a burden to have kids home with the smart decision, but it's hard for the parents with work? Or like, what's the overall vibe you're getting?
Listen, what I'm hearing, they don't want the schools open. We have to protect our children. And Warren, come on. You know how kids are.
By way, sorry to interrupt you. If we have to protect our children, but they're carriers, then by way of, and then we have to protect our mommies and daddies and our grandparents and our great grandparents. I mean, they bring it home.
Yeah. Because, kids, we get out there, the little children, and we'll eat behind each other and share ice cream and share candy and a milkshake. And the next thing you know, the parents from that home is infected or not well, and then they give it to the kids. The kids don't know they have to go to school, and other children get sick from that person. It's just too much. Why put people at risk? Why? I don't understand. And so many parents said, why is he doing this? And so this can create another health hazard. Aren't we tired of people dying from this horrible virus?
Yeah.
So parents are very afraid for their children to go to school. But then there's another issue. Sometimes I hear parents say, well, my child is, they have trouble learning at home because, they're home, the TV, their room, the toys. However, they do understand that I need the child to go to school, and the conflict is I need them to go to school, but they're afraid. So it's really sad to say that democracy does not prevail on many levels in the city of New York. And we must, as when I get elected, as council members, be able to stand up seriously for the people, and not for what the mayor just wants, but what the people are saying out in the streets.
Yeah, it's tough when they're not plugged in. It doesn't seem like they're plugged in. They're trying to, please the union, please the parents, then no one's happy. it's a tough.
No one is happy. There's a lot of resentment out there, a lot of anger out there concerning this.
Yeah, no, it's tough. So any other last points before we wrap up? And I definitely, where can people find your campaign website to make donations, to join, volunteer, whatever, get involved with Renee, and then and any other last finishing points you want. Excuse me. Non-COVID cough. Any other last points you want to share?
Yes, Warren, I am really on the side of tenants in this city. I go into buildings and I talk as I can campaign and as I've been doing before a campaign. And when I go visit people who live in this district and I see the conditions of many of the buildings, is an outrage. We have to fight and make sure that management companies and big landlords take care of those buildings so the people who live there won't have to live in filth. The 35th district is a district with the richest institutions: the Brooklyn Academy of Music, the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens, the Brooklyn Museum, and the like. Why in the world are there buildings that look trashy? It looks unhealthy, it's unclean, and no one is caring about the people who live there and their lives are put at risk. We must fight and make sure that people live insanity. This is sick. How people can go into a building. Public housing. One last thing, public housing. I am not supportive of the people being mistreated in public housing. I just did a rally for fair treatment in Fort Greene Park because the bathroom in Fort Greene Park on the north side of the park, on the Myrtle Avenue side, where the people of color in Fort Greene public housing use that side, the bathroom is horrendous. I am standing up for those people who may feel they have no voice. And I have to tell you that there's no one elected to elected. No one is taking care of making sure that the bathroom is clean. No one is making sure that it's not a health hazard. There's a pandemic going on. And I did a video on my website that shows the truth. And that's the truth. We need a renovated bathroom in Fort Greene Park. And I wanted them to hear my voice because this must be done. Do not discriminate. The other bathroom on the top of the hill is clean. Though that's the bathroom that's used by the residents who live on the DeKalb Avenue side, who live in brownstones. Okay? On the Myrtle Avenue side, public housing, the bathroom is disgraceful. So you can find me at www.reneecollymore2021.com. Please make a contribution. Your contribution will be matched 8-1, and it will go far because we are looking to win this race.
Renee, the 35th district would be very lucky to have you. I was lucky to have you. I really appreciate you joining me tonight and sharing your vision, some thoughts on the city. And while I sit in Jersey, unable to afford Brooklyn, make sure you take care of Brooklyn for me, please.
Yes, certainly, Warren. Thank you for having me, and thank you for watching, everyone.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you so much for coming on. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.